Australian Rugby League Commission has confirmed 4 new rule changes for the upcoming 2026 season, but they have sensationally backflipped on their proposed kick-off rule changes for now. And joining me live to discuss all the changes as well as other NRL news around the grounds today is Code Sports' Tyson Jackson. Tyson, thanks for your time. Can we start with the new interchange rules first? So how will the benches look for teams going into the upcoming season?
Yeah, a new look for the benches this year. We're going to go from 4 to 6, but what remains the same is only 4 players on the bench to be used, right? So you'll have 6 players there just in case. The NRL's kind of taking out any possibilities. If there's an injury, you can have replacements for almost every position on the field now. So instead of just the 4 players where you could knock down a bit, you'll have 6, but only 4 will get onto the field. And
I suppose the impacts of that change, so obviously you'll have 6 players to choose from. Does that sort of limit the impact of maybe picking a utility because you might be able to run an extra forward on the bench or extra back on the bench? Will that sort of limit the utility position potentially? Yeah,
so that was my first thought when the rules came out this morning was your players like Connor Watson, Tyron Wishart, Dylan Walker, the guys that are so suited to that position, they don't completely become redundant, but their role changes quite a bit now because you can really get specialists in almost every position on that bench now. You know, your 18, 19 could be an outside back, which we see teams don't carry cover for. It could be an extra forward, but it just takes game plan out of the factor as well. You don't really have to strategise as much as you would with a 4-man bench.
Absolutely. Now, there's also changes around the 0 tackle in-goal breach and restarting the tackle count as well. So run us through both of those. What's going on there?
Yeah, so if there's an accidental breach, which is like a knock-on over the line, which we see all the time in rugby league, instead of the player getting penalised for that and costing their team 7 tackles, it'll just be a normal 6 tackle set from the 20-metre line, right? So again, not much has changed. You just knocked off a tackle. The structure still remains the same. The team will come and have a restart from that 20-metre line, but instead of the 7 tackle sets, it'll be 6, and that's quite a big difference as well. I know it doesn't seem like much, but to start your set on the 20-metre line and have 7 tackles, most teams, or most good teams, can roll up the field like that. They can roll up pretty easily. So that is a significant change, but probably not one that's, you know, going to cause too much harm.
I do remember towards the back end of sets for some teams, they instead of looking to kick in goal, for example, and hopefully going for a try, they'd take the last tackle to eliminate the risk of that 7 tackle set. Do you think potentially we might see more teams going for that try now that that last tackle, that 7 tackles, been trimmed down to 6?
Yeah, 100% right, because like most teams would be scared of doing that, but I think there's going to be opportunities where teams will feel that they can put a kick in or they can put a bomb up and they can really try to get an extra play in there and not be too scared of the knock-on factor. However, it is still a 20-metre restart. Starting from that 20 metres, you know, not working off the line is still a massive risk. So there is a good chance that some teams play it safe, but the teams that back their defence, I'd have no doubt that they'll be putting up bombs and they'll be trying to get a try off kicks.
Sure. Now, there was some trainers who found themselves in a bit of hot water last season in particular. I remember the Titans and Penrith one in particular there. So what's been introduced to limit their involvement from 2026 onwards?
Yeah, so pretty much it's exactly that. Unless there's a reason for the trainers to be on the field, they won't be on the field. So to be exactly clear, trainers will be restricted from entering the field of play unless it's a clearly defined circumstance. Unless someone's injured, someone goes down, it stops. A lot of trainers like to go out and deliver messages from coaches and things like that. So I guess that will stop and it gives more onus to the player. But yeah, they're kind of just trying to eradicate having instances like the Titans game last year with Penrith. And, you know, for a lot of people, they thought the Titans could have won that game if that incident didn't happen. So yeah, that's what the trainer rule, I guess, will do for the game now.
Now, when this report came out, the biggest topic was the controversial kick-off changes. Now, we are going to see potentially a trial of this, but this won't be implemented from round 1 exactly.
Yeah, so the kick-off rule that was set to come in, or that was proposed, was pretty much if you got a try scored against you, you had the option to kick or receive, which I found baffling at the time. But yeah, that won't come into play straight away. What the NRL has proposed is that will come into play once the season's well and truly underway, and at the back end of the year, those teams that aren't in contention for the top 8 will get a chance to trial that rule out. But if every team's in contention for the top 8, and if this competition shapes up as close as it looks, we won't be seeing that rule until maybe round 25, round 26.
And if you're a neutral fan in particular, you want some competitive action, you probably don't want to see that trial throughout the end of the year this year. But some big news that broke this afternoon, moving on from the rule changes now, State of Origin. It's going global. Yeah,
well, it's been talked about for a very long time, but State of Origin is heading to New Zealand 2027, a $5 million deal to host Game 2 at Eden Park, which will sit around 50,000 people, which is a pretty good number. Obviously, we're used to a bit bigger when it's played in Sydney, but for example, Perth is a 50,000 seat stadium, Suncorp around 53,000. So yeah, look, it's a great opportunity for the game to grow over in New Zealand, but also with expansion to Papua New Guinea and things like that, it just creates a bigger platform for Origin to be shown on a global stage, as you mentioned, and New Zealand seems to be the first real stop before maybe a complete global takeover.
Yeah, exactly. Now, my main question around that is, with the time difference, has the NRL indicated, I suppose, what day of the week that may be, what time kickoff potentially may be for that State of Origin game?
It's still quite early, but from all words that have been, or all kind of methods that have been around New Zealand since they've been a factor in the competition, is it will run on main time in Australian Eastern time, right? So, look, it could be a later game over in New Zealand, but I dare say the game will still take place on a Wednesday. That's prime TV time for the NRL, and yeah, but I'm sure more will be discussed when more news comes out.
Now, Rugby League has decided to drop about 1,000 news stories in the space of 3 hours this afternoon because some big news from the Gold Coast. Their captain's re-signed.
Yeah, well, Tino had a get-out clause and that has been waived. So he's definitely locked into the Titans until at least the end of 2030. His contract doesn't finish until 2033, but he does have a second get-out clause which will come into play in 2030. It's massive for the Titans. They were desperate to keep Tino. Tino had interest from Melbourne. There was rumours that there was another big Sydney club that was after him. So the fact that they've been able to keep Tino is a huge plus. And yeah, they fought hard for this, and it's a massive first win for Josh Hannay before he even gets to coach his first NRL game.